Hey everyone, how's it going? Shuffle's back here with another video, and today we are going to talk about Clan Boss. So there's been a lot of talk about Clan Boss recently. I've been getting a lot of questions, and so what we're going to do today is we're going to go over, if we can get rid of these pop-ups, we're going to go over basically the ideal units for Clan Boss, what your strategy should be, and then we're going to do a couple of runs, because I haven't done my Clan Boss entries for today. So there's a few things that you want in your Clan Boss team. Ideally, you want a buffer. Then secondary, you're going to need a healer. And then hopefully you can get away with all the other slots being damage dealers. There are a few tips and tricks that you can use to boost your score and things of that nature. So we're going to try and go over everything all in one video. Let's start with the healers. So first things first, ideally you would like a healer that can also buff. Now, Dolores is best in slot. I'm sure everybody knows why. If you haven't seen, I did recently put out a video on her. But she has this inspiration buff, which is completely broken, and it's basically it is an attack buff that is based off of her attack. So most games that have an attack buff, it's like boost attack by 30%. Hers basically you stack as much as you want on her, or as much as you can on her, and then she buffs based on her attack, which means it well exceeds a 30% attack buff. Um, so she's very, very strong. She's going to be your number one option as your buffer, and she gives you a little bit of support heals. She's not much of a healer, but it will help a little bit. The good thing about Clan Boss is that it doesn't really do a lot of damage. It does big AoE burst damage, but then gives you time to recover. So you don't need a ton of heals. You just have to have enough heals that you can heal in between his burst hits. So from there, after we have a buffer, you want an AoE heal. If you don't have Dolores, though, what are you going to use? So there's a couple of options. Nisande is a great option. I feel like she's a little more rare than some of the other units out there, but she does have basically the same thing. She has healing with her skill 1, and then it's also a very small heal, although I think it's actually better than the Dolores heal. And then she has an attack speed increase with her ultimate. So similar to Dolores, she has a buff. It's not obviously as good. Um, but attack speed, especially if you're early game, which if you don't have Dolores, you are probably early or mid game. If you're late game, you're either A, not watching this video, or B, you already have Dolores. So um, the Nisande, though, if you are early game or mid game, can help increase your damage with this speed buff. Think of it as your damage in this kind of game goes on attack interval. So if we take a look at, we'll just use her as an example, even though she doesn't do any damage. She attacks once every 3 seconds. Technically it's a heal, but pretend she was a damage dealer. So she attacks once every 3 seconds. If you give an attack buff to everybody on your, or a speed buff to everyone on your team, now they're attacking a little bit more frequently, and all the rest of their stats are the same. So all of a sudden, you're getting damage more often throughout that period of time, and therefore, over the course of the whole fight, you're doing a lot more damage. So Nisande is option number 2, and option number 3 is going to be Autumn. Autumn is a worse healer, so if you can stay alive without much of a problem, then she might be a better option than Nisande. Just because she's an actual damage buff instead of a speed buff, she gets crit damage increased all allies in range. So assuming that you've geared everything properly, this is not an attack buff. It's not nearly as strong as an attack buff, but it is a damage increase as opposed to a speed increase. Um, it is only 30% crit damage, but it is helpful and it's something. Um, if you don't have enough damage dealers, you could also add her. She is another option that you could add if you needed another healer. And she also adds crit rate, so for early game players, if you don't have max crit rate on all your units, she would actually be a good option because she's going to produce a lot more damage, getting you to max crit rate first, and then adding crit damage on top of it. Now, your secondary healer, best in slot is going to be Elwyn. Elwyn is best in slot because she has a big AoE heal. and that is important. It does have to be AoE. Also, this is her range, which doesn't look fantastic. Actually, hold on. That's her range. Um, Once you get her maxed, she has a pretty good range. It extends out even further when she uses her ultimate, which means she can heal people outside these lines, which is really nice. She goes one more square over. Also, she has rage regeneration, allowing you to use your ults a little bit more often. Second up, if you don't have Elowen, who's the unit I'll be using, like I said, you want to use an AoE healer. I see a lot of people trying to use Vortex and saying that Vortex isn't very good, or trying to use Hollow and saying Hollow isn't very good. The reason they're not very good is because you're not using them in the right place. They are fantastic units. They're just not designed to AoE heal because they're not AoE healers. So you need to use an AoE heal here. So other options, you've got Leia. Fantastic option. I know she's a legendary lord, but she would probably be next up. She does have the rage regen, and she has a buff as well. Damage increase to all allies. So very, very good option. Plus she's got a lord skill. Next up, probably Maiden. Maiden has a cleanse as well as a defense buff, so another AoE heal. It's very, very good. Even this girl, Camille, who is the starter champ, if you don't have an AoE heal, she is a fine option. She will get the job done until you get one of the other AoE healers. So you could use her in conjunction with Autumn and or any of the others, and I'm sure it would be fine. As another option, if you don't have any of those, is Sadie. So Sadie isn't the best healer, but for Clan Boss, she might be able to get the job done if you build her up fully. It might be a little difficult, but she does have good range, and she might be able to get that done. If your team is dying because your heals aren't strong enough, maybe you're trying to push a higher level because you've just been really unlucky and you um, haven't had the pulls. Like you've got all the damage dealers, but you don't have any healers. You could always run like Camille and Sadie in a buffer if you want to run a third heal. That is an option. Now, we've dealt with the heal, we've dealt with the buff. We want to move on to damage dealers. Now, there's a lot of options for damage dealers, but we're going to split them into two categories. We're going to put them in first category is going to be damage dealers that are going to be placed on the tiles, and then we're going to put damage dealers that are placed on the ground. So you got your fighters and your defenders that can go on the ground, and then you've got your marksmen and your mages that can go on the tiles. Now, generally, you don't really want to be using defenders if you can avoid it. I mean, maybe there's a couple you could use, but I don't recommend it. Ideally, you want to use only fighters because these guys are going to output an absolute ton of damage. I'm sure everybody by now knows you can like do some artifact manipulation. We're not going to get into that too much in this video, but like if you have a Salazar, you could go ahead and put Scarlet Hunt on all of your fighters, and they would all get boosted damage as long as the bleed is up there. But we're not going to break down each individual unit. Ideally, though, you want three, especially if you have Dolores, you want to have three fighters. So you're going to have three fighters, and then we're going to have three platform damage dealers, and then we're going to have our two healers. That's going to be our breakdown. So let's jump over into Guild Boss. I am going to manual my deployment, just so you can see kind of what I'm doing. Actually, before we go in, let me mention really quick, just so you know, I do have both my healers, Dolores and Elowen, on this Invigoration set, which not only gives them an attack buff, but also gives them gives an ally an attack buff, and it's only one, so it can be RNG. So I will show you how I deploy my stuff, and then I'll show you the auto run because it'll just be faster. So let's start with NM3. This is the team I'm using. Really, the Wrath and the Lunaria are just there for their Lord skills. Now, I guess we should talk about that really quick. Generally, if you have like all the Lords in the game, you can do a lot better job of this than I can. I don't have any Legendary Lords, so it makes it very difficult to make full-out teams. Like a lot of people will run like a nightmare team and a piercer team, or a nightmare team and a oh my god, a Ziltu team. I'm blanking. Um, Ziltu Pyros, Infernal team. There we go. Infernal team and a nightmare team, or any combination of those three. I'm kind of doing that, but I'm only running 3 of each faction here. And I don't have any of the Infernal Lords, so that's why my poor Ziltu is just showing without a Lord skill. So really, the deployment only matters on a couple of units in terms of where you put them. So knowing that actually, we're going to do this a couple of times, but we're going to put our Dolores here. I'm not going to put her down first, but that's where we're going to put her. So we need to make sure that our damage dealers are all on the tiles that she is covering. So take a look at the tiles she's covering. That's where we're going to be placing our damage dealers because we want them all to get her buff. If you can see the 3 tiles that are available for fighters, those are the 3 tiles that are going to get fighters put on them. Are those 3 right in front of the dragon there. Then we're going to take our Dolores and we're going to put her here, facing this way. So you can see it covers all the same tiles as the Dolores does, except for the one on the far right. And that tile, because the Eloin ult, like I mentioned before, because it extends over one, it can heal her as well. So let's take these guys out. My first deployed unit is always Silas. He's my best damage dealer. So we're going to put him in the top left-hand corner, make sure he can hit the boss. And then we're going to grab our Dolores and put her here. So the reason I put them in this order is because, remember, we have Dolores on Invigoration. So she's going to put her attack buff on herself, and she's going to give it to one other unit, and the only other unit in range is Silas. So that makes sure that Silas always has that 10% attack buff. Then we're going to put down Hex. Then we're going to put down Cetrim. And then we're going to put down Eloin. So same thing here. Eloin gives herself an attack buff and one other unit. So that one other unit could be Silas or Dolores, which sucks because they've already got it and it won't do them any good, and no, it doesn't stack. Or it could be Cetrim and Hex. So here we can now click on them. You can see up in this top left-hand corner, if you look just underneath it, this is not an attack buff. This is a speed buff. So Cetrim didn't get it. Hex didn't get it. And Silas did. There's the attack buff. So this run would not yield our best score because we don't have the attack buff on one of our 2 damage dealers. The Eloin attack buff got wasted. But because this isn't going to be our normal run, we're just going to continue to deploy. We're going to put down Arrogance. We're going to put down Valeria. Remember, she's in that range of the Eloin as well. Then what we're going to do is we're going to put down Wrath because he has that passive that, well, part of his Lord skill, that stacks speed buff based on how many units in his faction are deployed. But we have to put him down in order to get it. Now that he's deployed, we can recall him and we can put down Zillitu. But before we do, this Lunaria is also on Invigoration. So I can do this, recall her, and you can see that now Arrogance has an attack buff as well. And now we can put down our Zillitu, and our run is good to go. So from here, we're just waiting for the shields. Like I said, we're not going to run through this whole thing. We're just going to do the first shield so you can see it. There's the shield. We pop all of our ults. And we pop, you can see we're going to pop the Eloin. It's going to heal her. She does have of the Valeria, she has a thing when she uses her ult, she does damage to herself and she can't be healed during that time. So what we do is we pop the Eloin ult and her ult at the same time. That way she doesn't kill herself. And then she can kind of slowly heal up after her ult's done, and then we'll just repeat the process on the next shield. So you can see we're already up at 7k, and that was a really bad deployment. Like, it's so slow because we were talking the whole time. So let me show you what the actual team looks like, and then we'll jump into NM4. That's basically my strategy for both of these dungeons. Now, I don't need to save my ults for um, I don't need to save my ults for the shields on this on NM3, and I could probably do it on NM4 without saving them as well. But the boss takes more damage when he's like dazed after you knock him out from breaking the shield. So I like breaking the shield quickly and then having the rest of that ult into the dazed mode because it's going to stack up more damage there. So here's our run. Everybody's deployed. So let's see who got the attack buffs here. So Silas has it. Really hard to see your cursor with all that going on. And Hex has it. So that's good. And then on the bottom, Arrogance got it again. So we'll let it run. Now, if one of these two, Hex or Arrogance, didn't get it, you can always just restart the run. Just so you know, though, if you just click here and click restart, it's the same as in your, sorry, I'll keep this running. It's the same as in your gear raid runs. It won't change who the attack buff goes on. It'll go on the same people every single time because the game sort of like takes a snapshot of what happened and just replays it. So you do need to actually click stop and then exit and then go back in again in order for the buffs to go on a new unit. But you can see how fast we're breaking these shields. We're already at 20k. 20k is the top shield for NM3. Or top shield. The top chest for NM3. 26k. We should finish around 28-ish. And there we go. 29.1. So really close to 30. You can see the, I don't even know what this chest is called, to be completely honest with you, but whatever it is, it's where you get 3 rewards a day per chest. We far eclipsed that, so it's fine. Here's our damage output. We get 62 million from Silas, 58 from Hex, almost 47 from Valeria, and then 40, 36, 32. So I'm going to show you, I'll do the same thing now with the NM4 run so you can see it again. And then I'll show you my gear real quick and we'll wrap things up. All right, so attack buffs, we got Silas. We didn't get Hex, but we did get Cetrum. And then on the bottom, we got Valeria this time. So we have the 2 opposite damage dealers we got last time. I do want to show you something really quick that you can do. If your team, especially on NM4, it's really hard to get through the final shield. If you're not getting through that final shield, what you can always do is you can recall all your units right before that shield goes up, or even just when the shield goes up. Recall all your damage dealers, put down anybody who is tanky enough to survive, so an Olag or something. Just have them as an extra unit. Like you can see I have 2 extra units over here. Throw one of them down, they don't die, and then hopefully your other extra unit could be a Volca, maybe an A1 Volca, and reducing your cooldown. And then you only have 45-second cooldown. By the time you get through the shield, it'll be almost ready to put your units back out again, and you can add another couple thousand blood to your score. So we're flying along here. We're already over 30k. And that's that. 31.4. And these scores are going to be very similar, except I think Hex is going to be a little bit bigger of a gap behind because he didn't get the attack buff this time. So 55, 45. She had the attack buff this time, so she gets the same score as Hex. When normally she's a little lower. And then 32, 29, 25. I would love to add like a Pyros to this team because my Zill 2 damage is being really restrained from not having a Lord for her, but hopefully one day. So yeah, for this one, for NM4, we're well into reward 4. We're not quite at the 50 million yet where we can pop these crazy chests at the top. We do get that one on NM3 though. So let's jump over to the gear really quick just because I know inevitably somebody's going to ask. So I'll show you the stats real quick. Very happy with my Silas, very good gear. Almost 100k BP with 17,000 attack and 290 crit damage. Arrogance, also very happy with his gear. Almost exactly 20k attack, 451 speed with 305 crit damage. Ziltu, I actually have a replacement ring for her, but I need a new Bengal to make the ring work. Still decent gear at 16k attack, 413 speed, 290 crit damage. But you can see all pretty similar stats. Valeria has really high base attack at over 6k, almost 6.2, so her attack is quite a bit higher at 22,000. 391 speed, 309 crit damage. Then we have Hex. Only 13k attack, a little bit lower. Still 285 speed and 332 crit damage. He's a little higher crit damage because he is on double crit damage on the right here. And then my Eloin, who's got 21k attack, 34k HP. So she's not purely for clan boss. I could, if I wanted to make her purely for clan boss, probably go a little higher on attack. But I do have an HP piece on her. But she's also 357 speed, 81 healing effect, and no rage regen. I think this is the HP one. No? There it is. Okay, so she got an HP ring on. With obviously attack substats still, but attack HP. And then I believe the final unit. I mean, we used these two, but they were just deployed and recalled. I believe the final unit was Dolores. So there's my Dolores, also on Invigoration. 12k attack, 273 speed. Ridiculous. So she's got almost 200 crit damage, but that's okay. And 40 healing effect, no rage regen, none of that. So it was really just about getting her attack high and getting her on Invigoration. You don't need Invigoration. I actually had better stats on her before without Invigoration, but I found that having the Invigoration buff was just better. It just helped more because I could make sure that Silas always had that little bit of a boost. Yeah, that's going to be it for this video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it helps. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we will see everybody next time. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day. Bye for now.